Hi guys, and welcome to a new video on Sonal's life. Now, just here with a disclaimer before you watch the video, we are obviously here for a review of the New Beginnings in Sapporo show, so the two shows we have just had. The discourse surrounding the shows was extremely negative on both days. While I will not agree or disagree with any of you, if you've come to this channel, on this YouTube channel, this video, expecting negativity or me to be very critical of New Japan, you're in the wrong place. Sonal's Life is a channel that looks honestly at the matches, and when I mean honestly, I mean my own opinions. And I just like to speak about the company that I love. That's just a disclaimer, because I can imagine everyone in the comments is going to be like, Sonal, you're way too positive. Oh, New Japan is going to shit. I'm not going to stick with that discourse. I'm going to go through the matches as honestly as I can. There's been two very eventful shows, and I'm going to look at that and what I think is going forward in the future of New Japan, which, despite what everyone is making out on the internet, is not the end of the world. So yeah, let's get going with night one. This was the 23rd of February. I'm sorry, I completely lost it. I had to get the card up and for some reason it wasn't coming up. So we started the show great. It's odd because normally we're used to seeing the Young Lions start off the show. We had that in the Frontier match, but because obviously we have just sent off our Young Lions, so Oscar and Yuto, we are very short on that. So we started the show with Yuji Nagata versus Zack Sabre Jr. Now, I don't know if any of you know the history behind the two of them, but their win-loss record was Yuji Nagata had beaten Zack, and it was a while ago, but that was still on Zack's mind. This match was great. It wasn't very long. It went 7 minutes 56. However, it showcased that Nagata is, I think he's like 55, but he can still go. And Zack Sabre Jr. really is pushing himself to the forefront of the company. He is like, yeah, I will fight young boys. I will fight the older wrestlers. I will fight anyone to prove that I am one of the best. And it was a very technically sound match. We then had, and like I said, it was a very long and quite convoluted set of cards. So I'm going to skip through the matches that didn't matter really. So we then had Bolton Oleg, Ryusuke Taguchi and Togi Makabe facing the House of Torture. So Narita, Yujiro and Kanemaru. Yeah, it was a House of Torture match. This show was very much dominated by the House of Torture, for better or for worse, which I know a lot of people think. I'm going to say this before we get into the main matches. I get it. International fans hate House of Torture. Not heel hate, but hate. And I'll mention this later on in some of the results. This is not the same discourse as in Japan. Now, my Japanese might be limited, but throughout all these matches, while I was looking at the tweets and stuff, the consensus towards House of Torture is very different in Japan. They dislike House of Torture as heel wrestlers. They like to give them heat. There was a survey run in Japan, and I think House of Torture, when it was your favourite faction, House of Torture came second or third and had almost double the amount of that of the United Empire, who for many of us were classed as probably tied with Los Ingobernables de Japón for one of the best factions. I'll mention this later on. You need to stop judging the quality of a show or quality of matches by just Western standards alone when criticising the bookers of New Japan, because, and I've said this on podcasts and stuff that I've appeared on, while New Japan World subscribers is a big thing for them, their main income will be from the domestic audiences, the Japanese fans, the ones who are buying the tickets for the shows, including the ones that are not televised, the ones who are buying the merch, the ones who are spreading the love of pro wrestling in the country. Just keep that in mind for the rest of the show, okay? And that is the last time that I'm going to say, just the expectations of Western fans are very different to Japanese, and that means that reactions are very different. We then had one half of Kazuchika Okada's farewell matches, and they were against the United Empire. So in this one, it was Yoshihashi, Ishii and Okada versus Callum Newman, Akira, Okan and Cobb. Now, it was meant to be 5-on-5, but Hinari is injured, so they took out Hiroki Goto. Yeah, a really good match. And I'll speak about this when I speak about the next day. There's been a weird discourse around Okada's leaving. I'll mention it with Tama Tonga coming up on the Sunday show, and Ospreay. Okada's farewell shows and farewell matches seem to have been much more downplayed. Now, I've mentioned this before, I don't know if it's whether this discourse of how Okada is leaving. We have noticed that compared to other guys, he has not put over any of the younger generation, any of the new talent, which again would have been perfect in these tag matches. So it was interesting. Okada got the win over Callum Newman, and this happened again in the Sunday show. So it was very interesting. Again, like with New Japan, you can maybe complain about the storytelling, but the wrestling for me is always second to none. This tag match was no different. We then had the final 5-on-5 LIJ versus Just 5 Guys match ahead of the 5-match single matches that all of the members had. Again, I really like this match. You can complain about seeing it time and time again, but they always give us something different. There are really nice interactions between 10 very different wrestlers. And the storylines going into these matches were very strong, whether it was Bushi and Taka Michinoku, their feud starting on New Year's Dash, the long run of Doki trying to prove himself against Hiromu. There are so many different layers, and again, I'll speak more about that on the Sunday show. We then had, which some name one of the best matches of the night, and I have to agree, it was the IWGP Women's Championship match with champion Mayu Iwatani versus Mina Shirakawa. Wow. So, I don't watch Stardom. I don't watch any other wrestling apart from New Japan. But every time I see these women get a chance to shine on a New Japan show, I am hooked from beginning to end. These women were given 12 minutes, and God, they threw everything into that match. They had the crowds excited, they had the fans at home excited. And similarly with New Japan, Stardom is going through a very interesting transitional period with a lot of politicking going on, because as much as we hate to admit it, wrestling is sports entertainment and there's always going to be politics involved. So I'm glad that they were able to push everything aside, come out and put on an amazing match. Mayu actually won, so she got her 2-step dragon suplex to retain. And yeah, I think it was the right decision with such a small amount of time and within the mid card. For it to be a title change would have just seemed a bit lackluster. So this had a great place in the card for what it was given. And also it was a nice start to the title matches, which people may or may not have hated. We are on to the main bulk of the Saturday show. If you want to fast forward it. I know this was the part that a lot of people criticised, but I'm going to go through it honestly and not just look at it from a Western New Japan fan standpoint, but generally overall. So first we had El Desperado versus Show for the IWGP Junior Championship. Now, this stipulation going into this, there were a lot of stipulation matches during the weekend, was that if Show lost, he would have to join Strong Style. Now, actually, for a House of Torture match, this was pretty good. Show and Desperado put on quite a good technical wrestling match, showcased their strengths and things. But they also showcased their characters. So Despy is now the saviour of the junior division, the man who defeated Hiromu Takahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. Show is a goddamn nutter who betrayed Chaos and has been on a crazy ass warpath since. That sounded really posh. Warpath. I don't know why I said it like that. Again, the match was going great until, so the match was 16 minutes, about 13 minutes in, where Ren Narita came out and caused some chaos. And obviously then that's all we were expecting. At first it seemed like Desperado had overcome the shenanigans because Kanemaru was there as well, and obviously people tend to forget that El Desperado was in the heelist faction at one point, Suzuki-gun. Now, it was a very interesting result. So with the help of Narita pulling El Desperado under the ring, Show got the count-out victory. Odd, because I've always thought that there was this stipulation in New Japan that titles couldn't change hands over count-out, which I guess maybe why people are confused. I was confused. But I am kind of excited for this now. Listen. Before you go, Sonal, you seem to defend New Japan on every decision. I won't. But there are so many ways going forward. Everyone always complained that the junior division was quite stale. That really we were swapping between Hiromu, El Desperado and maybe like other players at odd points. Sho, this is his first title win. His character might be the best in House of Torture because he is unnaturally unhinged. And I want to see how they go for that. We'll speak about that for the Sunday show. They've already built up a new title scene picture and added something new. On the other hand, by having Narita help Sho win, remember Narita was at one point part of Strong Style with El Desperado, you now have the ability to have a feud between them, whether it is with Despy moving to heavyweight or with it being open weight. It was also quite sad in a sense that after this match, Minoru Suzuki, the other member of Strong Style, wrote that at this point in his career, he is handing back the moniker of Strong Style to New Japan. And it seems like while he is at maybe the latter half of his career, with no intention of slowing down, that New Japan will not be somewhere we will be seeing him often. Now, while it is not as shocking because Suzuki has never signed a full-time contract with New Japan and has never been signed under them, it will be sad and a void will be missed, especially when it comes to beating up young lions. Although, if we keep getting Lance Archer, that should be fine. We then had, what was the next one? The next one was the Never Openweight match. This was Shota Umino and Evil. I'm not gonna lie, this was one that I was slightly confused about because they would try. We've seen a lot of the big stars go, and it seemed like we need to be building up the big stars, the upcoming guys like the Musketeers and those young lions returning. Now, obviously, Sho lost here, and there was a lot of shenanigans going forward. Now, again, like I said, I'm going to be honest. This result I didn't get. Now, before you blame Gedo, I have heard multiple sources say that is Dick Togo who books the House of Torture matches. So if you are angry, direct your attention to the big dick in the company, literally. Yeah, I'm really sad for Shota. He is really slowly coming into his own, whether it's the new haircut, the different gear. And while it is very slow, we can see improvement constantly. House of Torture got legit heat for that win. What are the positives of this? I don't think Evil is going to be going after the world title anytime soon now that he has this Never title, which is always a bonus. And it will be interesting to see. Shota is now on a losing streak. And sometimes that is what returning wrestlers need to sort of spark a fire under their asses and really get them the push that they need. You know, like I said, I'm always honest with you. The next match was Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Matt Riddle for the New Japan World Television Championship. I didn't watch it. Personal matters aside for Matt Riddle, he gives me the ick. And I couldn't watch this match. That and the fact that Tanahashi is not in the best shape, I just physically couldn't watch it. So, yeah, that was it was a 9-minute match, okay? And Matt Riddle won. From one match I didn't watch to another that I really enjoyed. We saw David Finlay, the global champion, face and making his debut, Nick Nemeth, aka former Dolph Ziggler. Again, I feel like at this point a lot of fans were just really down on this show, so they wouldn't have liked anything that New Japan would have given. I personally love this show, like this match, not this show. This match was a really nice way to end it, and tied with the women's matches was at the top for me for this show. Going in, so Nick Nemeth made his entrance, and as some of the War Dogs came out, Finlay got the surprise attack on him. And you know what? Dolph Ziggler, I'm going to keep saying this, Nick Nemeth made Finlay look really strong. Whether it's taking that really rough bump within minutes on the outside of the ring going through the barricade, or just generally selling like crazy. Now, if you don't know this, I was obsessed with Dolph Ziggler when I started watching New Japan. It was like, when I started watching WWE, sorry. It's tiredness, I've been up since 5 a.m. He had the charisma, the talent, the selling, and he brought all of that to this New Japan ring. Now, while the reaction on the entrance of Matt Riddle was quite quiet and lackluster, the crowd very quickly fell in love with Nick Nemeth. They were chanting on Twitter. Some of them were saying, we've seen him in WWE, he's just as good. He has the look, he has the in-skill ability. And that's the thing. Nick Nemeth is a very sound wrestler. He didn't last years in WWE consistently putting on good matches. I'm going to compare him to like Hiroki Goto, who you could go to him to put on a good match, albeit he would never win that top title. or like have really long top runs, because he did win the title, but you know what I mean. So Finlay looked great as well. His ability to be a heel was really good, and I liked the connection between the two of them. There is a history there which you can look at, like with Nemeth and Fit Finlay, obviously David Finlay's dad. And in the end, Nick Nemeth got the win. And I've never been a fan of this sort of thing happening. Go back to, was it 2019 when Jon Moxley made his debut? He beat Juice Robinson for the United States Championship, and I was not happy. But seeing how much Moxley has grown in New Japan, his love for the company, made me realise I can't judge that alone. Similarly, when Nick Nemeth hit his promo, both in the ring and then afterwards, you could hear that this really is what he wanted. There was like, he said that 7 years ago he almost signed with the company, which would have been insane to me, because it would have overlapped from when I started watching it. But I think that personally was, out of all of the decisions made throughout that show, that was the best. Again, I thought it was the best way to end that show, which had very ups and downs. I personally think the first half of the show was great. The tag matches were perfect. The booking, some of the quality of the wrestling with House of Torture, it's up to you how you think it. But I think the problem with this was that a lot of Western fans had so much disdain and anger and doom and gloom about it that it went into the next day. Which personally for me was miles better. Not gonna say it was the standard of New Beginning in Osaka, and wouldn't say it's one of New Japan's best shows ever. However, a lot of things happened. Now, again, I've been talking for ages, so we're going to quickly run over this so I don't overwhelm everyone with a lot of information. So, we started with a 10-man tag match. So, it was Chaos and Hontai versus House of Torture. Nothing really big happened. Oh, something big happened. House of Torture actually lost the match. And then after, obviously with Sho holding the title, Yo decided, former Roppongi 3K partner, decided to play House of Torture at their own game, took the IWGP Junior title and ran off. So that's nice. We've got a new feud going forward, and like I said, you might not like how Sho won, but it now opens the possibilities to a lot more feuds and things going on, which I quite like. Former Chaos. We could have Robbie Eagles, Kosei Fujita, because Kosei Fujita did actually tweet after Sho had won. Like, like, what the hell? And I want people to remember that there might have been a very different plan going forward, but we've got to remember, one of the big stays in the junior division, Master Wato, just underwent surgery. So they would have probably had to do a lot of changing there. We then had the final match of Okada versus, well, Okada's final match, and it was actually it was all Chaos because Hiroshi Tanahashi was sadly injured. So it was Okada, I'm trying to remember now. It was the Chaos foursome, so 5 actually. So instead of Tanahashi, it was Yano facing the United Empire with Matt Riddle. Again, a really fine match. Despite like confusion about it, New Japan always put on very solid tag matches. Okada pinned Callum Newman again. Okada, man, why do you not want to put over new talent? There were so many opportunities here. You could have had Great O'Khan pin, Jeff Cobb pin, literally anybody pin, but it didn't work. But you know what? Fine enough. At the end of the match was quite funny. Like Okada, well, it wasn't funny. It was quite emotional. Like I cried. Well, yeah, basically cried when Okada took the hands of Goto and Yoshihashi, 2 men who he knows and loves so much. They walked together down the ring to the rest of the Chaos faction. So I'll make another video about everyone who's departing. But yeah, it was really bittersweet. Like, Okada is going to fresh pastures, but we are going to miss him. And yeah, it was a really emotional time. And from a man who refused to put over young talent in his final match, to a man who really was the epitome of I am leaving, but I am going to leave you in safe hands. It was probably one of the most personal matches I've ever watched. It was Tama Tonga's final match, where he was teaming with his brother Tangaloa to face, so GOD, the OGs, to face the new GOD in El Fantasmo and their brother Hikuleo. Now, it was already emotional to start with because Tama and Tangaloa came out in the Warface paint, the one that we always knew and loved, especially from their heel time in Bullet Club. And this match was really what I wanted from Okada. Tama was very strong. He started off in the ring with Hikuleo, and then we got Tangaloa facing ELP. Just want to say welcome back. We know Tangaloa's been having some issues. He had surgery, and I think he was really strong in this match. So was Tama Tonga. However, the stars had to be ELP and Hikuleo. It's quite funny. So Jado was a special referee. Holy God, that man is jacked. He came out in a sleeveless shirt. And at one point, like when they were doing the roll-up pins, Jado just stopped counting. He was like, yeah, I want a clean fight. I don't want you to be doing this. Someone said that when it was Chris Charlton said that when Jado said we want a clean match, he meant I want a slow match, because he was like, I'm not dealing with this today. But it was a really good match. In the end, they had Hikuleo pin Tama Tonga. That is how you leave a company. You elevate the young talent. Tama Tonga still looked phenomenal in this match, but he made his brother look good. And for New Japan fans, they go, right, Tama Tonga is leaving, but Hikuleo has got to that point now where he can beat his veteran brother in a tag team match. So yeah, that was very good. I'm going to get like some of them quite quickly. We then had a 2-on-2 match, so it was Gato and David Finlay versus, and this is probably, I want it tattooed on my brain, the Funky Weapon Taguchi was teaming with Nick Nemeth. Now I'm going to say, as expected, Gato was pinned. We saw Taguchi lead the play for Nick Nemeth, and they were both doing hip attacks in the center of the ring. I didn't know how much I needed that, but honestly, it was perfect. And I liked the chemistry between them. After the match, even though Tana was injured, he was on commentary, and Nick Nemeth said, I wanted to tag with you, but now I want to face you for this title. And obviously it'll be when he is all recovered. But God, that won't be a match of who's the best wrestler. It'll be a match of who has got the best hair. Yeah, it was a really nice tag match. Like I said, it was a really nice mix. This already in match 4 was much stronger than the previous show. We then got to the final 5 matches where we saw the start of the single matches between LIJ and Los Ingobernables. No, LIJ and Just 5 Guys. Now, right, I've got an eyelash in mine. I'm really going to have a different stance to a lot of you on these matches, so please do not hit back at me and say it's favoritism. This is genuinely how I felt at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So, we started with Bushi versus Taka Michinoku, the two men who started this feud back at New Year's Dash. A really good match, wasn't very long. It saw Bushi get the win. I want to say, no matter what goes on in Taka's personal life, he is in his late 40s, he's been wrestling for decades, he can still go. Bushi, I think Bushi's at the stage of his career where he is fine just doing these small matches or taking pins, because the crowd still love him. We then had my match of the night, and you will hear why. It was Hiromu Takahashi versus Doki. Now, I know all of you went in thinking that this was a sure win for Hiromu. Ha 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 ha. I'm going to gloat, because not only was this a beautiful match, it didn't feel like it went very long, but it was so fast paced. There was so much going on, and we know Hiromu can go, but Doki really stepped up to the plate and went, you know what? I'm gonna make you eat your words. I am gonna be the opponent you deserve, the opponent you need after losing the title to Desperado. Within it, there were so many times where either man could have won. When Hiromu did his time bomb 1.5, as Japanese commentary called it, or Doki was hitting his high octane moves. Like, I don't know, I thought Doki was gonna win. I wanted Doki to win because you know I'm Team Doki, but I was worried. I was like, are they just gonna make it predictable and have Hiromu win? Thank you, New Japan, for making my month. Because after finally hitting his daybreak, Doki picked up probably the biggest win of his career, and the crowd was so into it. You could see the emotion on his face, because Doki started as a guy who was picking up pins. He was basically Taka Michinoku. He wasn't connecting with the crowds, and he is so loved now. And you know what? This win over Hiromu now broadens the spectrum of an already very strong junior division. Because now, the idea of Doki winning a junior title at some point is not crazy, because that man has pinned one of the most successful junior champions in the company's history. It was great. And you know what, if New Japan were like, Sonal, here's Doki winning. The next match, so it was Shingo Takagi versus Taichi. There was a stipulation about YouTube copyrights and stuff. Again, a very different match from Hiromuto and Doki. It was more strength-based, power-based, because obviously, compared to the juniors, Shingo and Taichi are very big men. This was truly a great match. These two have such a good chemistry together. And guess what, guys? Holy Emperor Taichi won. That is 2 out of 2 for my Just 5 guys. Yeah. With Doki there. I don't have a picture. Taichi is one of the few wrestlers, along with Okada, who has eluded me my entire wrestling career. Why won't you meet me, guys? But yeah, up to this point, phenomenal show. We've had some amazing matches, some great singles. And this, I think, is where I will split off from most wrestling fans, because this is where some people thought the show went downhill, whereas I still thought it was very good quality. We next had Uemura versus Tsuji, hair versus hair. The one that most people were anticipating. To cut a long story short, Uemura lost, had his hair shaved, but I think I want to put out my opinions on this. Some people were saying it was the worst match they've ever seen from the two, that they put on better matches as young lions. I don't know if I was in the minority. I really enjoyed it. People thought there wasn't a sense of urgency. I get that. Until maybe the last 5-7 minutes, I could see it looked more like a normal, really good wrestling match rather than one for hair versus hair. But I want you to remember that it might be to do with story time. Remember, these two guys are going to be the future of the company. So they will want to put on amazing matches. And I personally think, technically, and like wrestling wise, it was very sound. Although it maybe wasn't as good as their match at Wrestle Kingdom, it still showcased two very different wrestlers. Tsuji with his lucha skills are much more flashy than the very traditional Japanese and I guess American strong style of Uemura. But you could see that maybe around the 23-22 minute mark, they were like, oh shit, no, there is something on the line more than just us showcasing, it is our hair. And that's when it picked up. Again, you might have different views on this match. I personally loved it. And especially at the end after the match where Tsuji basically went to Okada and called him out. Like, is this how you want to leave the company? How disappointing. Again, if you didn't like this match, I get it. But the consensus on Twitter after about how the New Japan's future is going to dust and how Okada left at the right time. And I understand why Okada didn't put them over if this is the future. Why? What is that going to achieve? From one match, you've made this assumption. And I feel like this is the overall thing of these two last shows. 2 weeks ago, some of you were praising New Japan because they put on one of the best shows with the Osaka New Beginnings. You were praising Wrestle Kingdom as one of the best. But suddenly now with one bad show, because I personally loved today's show, the Sunday show, you are now putting New Japan in the dirt. I'm going to stop watching it. RIP New Japan. Let's sack Gedo. Which I'm going to be honest, I don't think Gedo has full control of everything. I'm just going to put it out there. Seeing some of the reactions of you guys, again, don't unsubscribe to me if you don't think it, is so dramatic. New Japan has been in moments like this before. Holy God, if you look at this Tsuji Uemura match and say this is shit wrestling, the future is shit, that's up to you. But for me personally, while it wasn't their best match, it was still a very strong match, showcasing that I think the future of New Japan is safe. Similarly with the Naito versus Sanada match for the main event. It wasn't their best, and it turns out that Sanada has been wrestling with a torn bicep, which makes a lot of sense because the match was phenomenal until the final moments where all of Naito's tornado DDTs and Destino attempts, the moves where he has to use a lot of Sanada's bicep strength to help him, there was a few issues there. Now, I'm not going to really dwell on the two matches. I just want to talk about this discourse of negativity. Because again, a lot of people went, this was an awful match. It was a really bad match to end a really bad two shows. I generally saw quite a positive consensus from Japanese fans who liked the shows. They liked the direction it was all going in. We ended the show with Naito doing his speech Okada came in the ring, hit the LIJ fist bump, then attempted to do a Rainmaker, which Naito countered. You still have the strong stars. And while there might be 1 or 2 shows or 1 or 2 matches you didn't like, have faith in New Japan. If you don't have faith in Gedo, have faith in the wrestlers themselves, because they are human beings. They might have off days. They have one of the toughest schedules humanly possible. They will have issues. Their bodies will need a break, but they are doing it because they want to entertain fans. So yeah, I feel like I didn't really go over the matches, but more just trying to shine a light on it, like positive light on it. New Japan is going through change. There is so much to look forward to, and while you might feel doom and gloom about what's going on because of these 2 shows, there's a lot to look forward to. We've got the anniversary show, the New Japan Cup, and again, if those results don't come out as you like, either step back from the product or try and see the positive, because you know what? It must be hard for all the wrestlers there. They've seen in the space of a few months, or I guess even a year. Jay White go, Aussie Open go, Shibata signed with AEW, Ospreay's gone, Tamatonga's gone, Okada's gone. That is gonna have an impact. And if New Japan want to try new things out, there are gonna be some training bumps. Is that how you call it? You just need to try and trust that something is gonna click at some point, and we are gonna see New Japan go back to where some people think they should be. I personally don't think there's much of an issue. I liked a lot of the show, the last 2 shows. So yeah, if you do want to stay positive on New Japan, make sure to subscribe to me, because I will always be here trying to be as positive as possible and shine a very different perspective from what you might see on social media. But even though I'm saying this, I do want you to let me know your thoughts. So let me know on social media at wrestling_chat, in the comments below. What were your thoughts on the show? Come on, give me some positivity, guys. And while you're there, remember to like, share, and hit subscribe, because I am going to be doing a shit ton of videos coming up soon. And hopefully you guys will come along on this journey of positivity with me. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!